The Prince of Discs is a mature and determined prince, of whom explores the world in order to understand its details, so that he can put those elements of knowledge to work in his own journey. The Rider-Waite card of the Knight of Pentacles or Knight of Discs shows something at first glance quite similar, but he appears to be cherishing the pentacle, the sun, the symbol of the world, or even offering it in thanks to the world. The card is elementally air of Earth, and so this might seem like quite a good thing, but they can be quite unstable. If we look at natural phenomena and things like that, they could enable strong gusts of wind, for example, hurricanes, of which would weaken the Earth, and so on and so forth. And so perhaps there is an inherent conflict in this prince's actual personality, and yet he does strive to understand all the details of things. And so on the Tree of Life, he is in Tifereth, so he's right in the centre of the Tree of Life, which of course is all about balance and harmony. And so he takes all of the things of the world around him, all the different Sephiroth, and conglomerates them into one. He says, what can I learn from them all, and how can I put it into my own world to make everything make sense, which is really what the Tree of Life itself is all about. It's a blueprint of the universe. The Tifereth is also all about beauty, of course, in many different interpretations of it, and so we could see him, as the princes often are, as quite dashing, the type of character of whom would look good. He'd care about his body and his appearance, and so we will actually return to that symbol as well as we move on. He, of course, charges forward on this chariot. Again, like a lot of the princes, he's moving very quickly, and he's being pulled along by the bull of Taurus. And also, he wears a helmet with a winged bull as a crest on top of that, and so we can see here a strong element of Taurus. It's very central to the actual card, and so this shows that he actually represents the attributes of Taurus in some regards, and so he would be very kind to us if we were to meet him, but he'd also be really hard working and determined. He wouldn't stop until he'd known all of the details and all of the ins and outs of the things of which he is manifesting. He'd be very sensible, and he would work independently, strong-minded sort of prince. And yet, of course, that could also mean that, at least on the surface, he could come across as rather stubborn or even domineering if we were to look at it on the negative element. And yet, of course, this means that he charges forth into the world with this element of Taurus guiding him. And if we actually look at the chariot itself, it's coloured in black, and so this represents the 10th Sephiroth, of which is Malkuth, the earth, the kingdom, and so his journey to understand is based in the physical world itself. He's less concerned with spiritual enlightenment on the surface, and it may appear when we meet him that he would be more interested in exploring the world to broaden his mind, for example, because as he broadens his mind and understands, say, different cultures and things metaphorically, then he'd understand people and how they think and how they build and how their lives go together. And of course this is how we learn, and it's how we have learnt throughout history. Agriculture itself is something of a mystery. We don't really know how farming or the Neolithic actually started, but when it did, it spread far and wide, and this is obviously because travelling groups and communities have spread ideas and techniques, and they've taught people how to till the land and how to grow the crops, and we've literally learnt how to care for the earth, and with it, the earth of course has taken care of us with our food and our drink, and it's a balance, just as we saw with Tifereth there in the Tree of Life. And so we can actually see this with the orb of which he holds in his left hand. Now this, first and foremost, is a symbol of the sun, and so it could be Tifereth, and yet it can also be the sun as the giver of life in agriculture. And so these court cards on the discs are very agricultural. They're often concerned with harvest and obviously the fruits of our labour, because they are the final court cards upon this tarot journey. And he holds this in order to show that he understands it, he knows how to till the land, like we've seen. And so the globe, in one way, could look almost like an orrery or a map of the cosmos, and so it could represent him understanding and mastering the seasons, the day and night cycle, and when to plant the seeds and when they would harvest. He's literally learnt all that and put it to physical use. And it also looks a bit like a blueprint, because there are all these symbols in the middle of it which are very difficult to actually see, but Crowley describes them in the Book of Thoth as a cross, a cube, and 3 circles, and so these represent him literally laying out a plan on how to do this, and so it can be a plan on how to build, or in agriculture, of course, how to plant and reap and sow. And so it shows he is gaining a mastery over the earth. He's figuring out, if you do this, then you get that result, and he's essentially writing it all down and figuring out how to improve upon it all the time. And in his other hand, so in his left hand, is the companion to this, which is a more spiritual symbol because of the balance, of course. And so this is the orb and scepter. Now this is used in the coronation of monarchs. We actually saw it at the time of making the video not so long back with the coronation of King Charles III. He holds the orb and scepter, and it has many different meanings. In royalty, it often represents that the power of the monarch actually comes from a higher power, that being God or the grand architect of the universe, which is a fitting symbol for this card because, of course, he, the prince, is an architect, as we can see with that blueprint symbol. And by extension, if the monarch's power comes from God, then we have an orb and scepter, suggesting that also the power and the life on earth itself comes from God, and so everything comes back to that higher power and balances itself perfectly. And so if we have a look at the actual orb and scepter on the card, the bottom of it is hidden in the chariot, and so it's hidden in Malkuth, in the physical kingdom, and of course it rises upwards to the orb and scepter at the top. And so again, it's the awakening experience here depicted. So metaphysically, it's a symbol of esotericism, the great work of as above so below, the rejoining of the macrocosm and microcosm, so the rising of ourselves from the kingdom back to union with our creator. And of course it's all about a balance, and so if we look at this with an agricultural bent to it, because of course that's literally what he's doing on the card, it's showing that our soul, our spirit, our consciousness is housed within our body. And so, as we began with, this prince cares about his body. He's actually naked on the card, and so it's showing that he's quite well built. He looks after himself. He looks good, and so of course he eats well and drinks well and exercises and that type of thing. And so, in a perfect balance, by nurturing the earth to give us food and water and so on, we in turn nurture our bodies, of which contain within it the spark of divinity of our spirit, and therefore we are healthy and actually able to go out there on these journeys of enlightenment and of exploration, whatever it may be. The prince himself as well, he looks as if he is surveying all this land of which he is travelling through, and he's looking at it with almost a meditation. So he's taking it all in, and again he's trying to understand it and figuring out how he could actually make it grow and how it all fits together. And so again, it's implied with the geometry of the globe in his hand that he is literally surveying the world. So he's saying, here is water, here is land, and here is how it can all come together. And we see it all come together in the background of the image. And so the first image here in the background, and it looks like a tapestry or a curtain. It's a floral image of which shows flowers and fruits, and so this of course is the natural world and the world of agriculture, and also is the element of earth, of course. And then we see behind the chariot as well these strange little globules of air. And so these are, of course, the passage of air and oxygen and all of the different elements of which travel within it. And so, of course, if we put them together into their harmonious positions, we have earth and air, of which is what the prince actually represents. And we could literally see him moving on the air through this manifested world. It's actually quite a simple card, to be honest, this one. When you get it, it can represent finding those qualities in yourself, that hard-working and focused determination that you need to make things work. It's basically saying, this is the time to stand up and grow, to take responsibility for the things of which we are putting into harvest. So it's a bit like a moment where you just want to move on to the next step. You want to actually start putting effort into making things better for yourself or making things grow. Is not necessarily a strongly spiritual card. He's more materially focused, and so it could be all about that blueprint, of which is for building, not necessarily for building an actual house or something physical, but for building the blocks of which will house your body, and house inside that, of course, your spirit, and onwards, so that you may be secure and healthy, and therefore able and willing to grow on your journey.